All right, did you click chat? All right, thumbs up, we got everything going. All right, I'm getting a thumbs up, so the show has begun. The show is Asheville 8 Note. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Sam Irvin, the host. This is the show where I have different Asheville musician guests on each week to chat for an hour and jam for an hour. It's available as a podcast. There's an associated Patreon. If you're watching it anywhere other than YouTube, maybe pop over to there. To that platform, because I put up old episodes with a little bit better mix and chopped down a little bit better. Everything just sounds better in YouTube, so check it out there. I started doing this show to get creative for creative's sake, just carve out some time in my life to have fun with music. Since I do it professionally, sometimes it can be a grind, but sometimes it's fun. Actually, most of the time, this show, all the time, each guest has something special to offer. Today's guest, David Stevenson, is another fingerstyle classical guitar player with an enormous teaching career behind him. He's now retired, and he owns, co-operates the Sagework Guitar Rest Company, which have revolutionized many players' ergonomic approach to the guitar, the nylon string guitar, including my own. I use it, and it's a total game changer. I love that thing. And he's brought his guitar and a loop station and some effects over there, some delays. So we'll hear him perform a little later. Maybe we'll go back and forth playing. Reason one, creativity for creative's sake. There's also a gnat in here driving me nuts. So if you see me clap throughout the show, I'm not applauding myself. Oh, it landed on a flower. I'm going to knock that bouquet over. All right. So enjoy yourself watching me get more and more frustrated at this gnat throughout the episode as well. Oh, no. Okay. All right. So number two, I do this to, am I saying these out of order? I don't know. Maybe build community. I've never met David before, so it's nice to get more involved in, I guess, the classical guitar community. He's been dropping all sorts of names of people. Andy Urich, friend of the show, is a mutual friend, a mutual acquaintance. And they do all sorts of stuff in town together, like the Guitar Society, the Guitar Orchestra you mentioned. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. And he used to teach at UNCA, which is where I went to school for music and philosophy, and also taught at Clemson. So I want to hear about which one's better. Maybe I'll get you to throw shade on one of them. Building community through this platform. And also reason number three to do this is to set up all the cables and practice turning knobs and getting all the software in my studio working. Everything takes practice. And so I wanted to spend some time on that. And per the tradition of the show, I'm going to check and make sure that I set everything up right. Andy Urich, friend of the show, is a mutual. And I did. I'm coming through loud and clear. That's great. I was not. Oh my gosh. I see two gnats now. Where are they coming from? I'm going crazy. So unprofessional. I apologize. Summer. It's summer. They're around. So I'm coming through loud and clear. And I've said the three things. I mentioned that you should watch this on YouTube. There is a Patreon for Irvin Music Studio that eventually maybe I can purchase a graphic designer to make a new title card, a new Please Wait card that you saw up top. That would be great. Or some help mixing these together. I'm not sure. Feel free to comment throughout the show wherever you're watching this. I can see them pop up on Restream, so let me know if you're watching. David and I can respond if you say anything particularly witty or clever or worthy of connection. We might comment on it or comment back to your comment. Is there anything I'm missing? Probably, but you know what? Why don't I go ahead and invite you up? And David Stevenson. Yeah, come on down, join me, save me from myself. I certainly wouldn't do this show all by myself every week. It's a joy to have guests on. All right, yeah, it should be playing. I don't know, let's double check with the playback. It's too far back. I'm too far behind. All right, he's making his way across the obstacle course that is the studio. Hello, thanks for coming on.
Good to see you, Sam. Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Let's see. How do these things work?
There we go, just like that. Yeah, and you want to talk right into this guy, maybe 3 to 6 inches away from it. Yeah. So you've been interviewed. I saw your YouTube career of being interviewed by somebody else. So this is old hat.
Sort of, I guess. I mean, it's not totally unfamiliar to me, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I watched the beginning of the interview talking about, and you were telling me earlier that you enjoyed how the majority of your students, especially at Clemson, weren't music majors, but were rather just doing it for the passion of the instrument.
Exactly. Yeah. As I often say, they were smart enough at Clemson to do something else for a living,
Right.
and just enjoy the guitar as a passion. So yeah, I had some really, really talented people down there. So it wasn't like they weren't good musicians. Like they were studying some other thing because they weren't good at guitar. Many of them were quite good and continue to get better. So yeah,
Their ambition was just well-rounded.
yeah. They realized the need to actually make some real money in this world in order to survive. So,
Yeah, it is difficult. The hustle, the
yeah.
grind is real for sure. But it sounds like you did, we covered a lot of ground before the camera started rolling, so
Yeah.
we'll try and sum it up, some of it. You had a pretty traditional route you taught for almost 30 years at each institution, right?
Correct. Most of that was overlapping.
Right,
Obviously,
not
I'm not
30.
quite that old. But yeah, UNCA was. I actually started there in 1987,
Okay, wow.
and gosh, it was 29 years that I was there, and it was usually just like one morning a week. I'd have 3 or 4 students. I think that Nat has.
Ah!
I think you got him.
Did I get him on my face? Great.
So yeah, it was very, very part-time job,
Mm-hmm.
but again, I had wonderful students and interactions there, and I've taught at other colleges in the area, Brevard College, and I taught at Gardner Webb College, and
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned that.
What was your so the total career, did that span over 30 years, I suppose?
Over 30 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Like 32 years, I guess. 1987 to 2022.
Yeah,
So,
that's huge.
right. I got out of grad school in 1986 and pretty much came right to Asheville, and a couple of things fell into place for me. And
Where did you go to grad school? Like, where are you from, too?
well, I did my undergraduate at the University of South Carolina in Columbia
Mm-hmm.
with Christopher Berg, who also retired last year.
Okay.
He taught at USC for something like 45 years or 44 years or something like that. And I sent out a bunch of grad school applications and got accepted, 3 or 4 of them. And I chose the University of Southern Mississippi because I got a full ride graduate teaching assistantship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was going to get experience teaching, and I was going to get out of grad school without any debt, which was part of the plan.
That's what you
Literally.
want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In music, I did not want to be weighed down with a bunch of debt.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
I had high hopes for the student loan forgiveness that just got shot down.
yeah. So anyway, that I had a great experience there. Actually, my teacher at Southern Mississippi, we kind of ended up disagreeing a lot, and I didn't. So what really helped me there was to form my own opinions and stand up for my own ideas, and because I often didn't agree with him.
Was he more just traditionalist? Because you mentioned loving like Andrew York, who's alternative, and here you're here with like effects pedals and such. So,
Um, he just he was a really great arranger, and he was also a bass player. Um, and he did those things really really well. Um, we disagreed on interpretation of like Bach, for instance, and um, I remember him playing the Fourth Lute Suite with swing. I was like,
oh no.
really?
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, uh,
Interesting choice.
yeah. So yeah, it was all fine. We just had different opinions about how things should be done. Like I said, it ended up being good for me to not just go along with everything that he said or demonstrated or whatever. So
That can be useful, yeah, in like creating confidence in your
yeah,
voice.
yeah,
Yeah.
and and I had a full studio of teaching there, so I got pretty comfortable with teaching. So when these other jobs, or maybe that's why the other jobs came my way, is because I had some experience already
Mm-hmm.
along with my graduate degree, and just kind of pieced it all together for many years because there was no full-time job with benefits or anything like that. It was all a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and
Well, I've had many musicians on, yeah, talking to me about how they're making it work and wearing a ton of hats. And
yeah,
it seems you, was it mostly teaching for you? Like, in terms of grind, like you might have been teaching at multiple schools at the same time and such
exactly.
like that. But,
Yeah, but you had a consistent schedule.
mm-hmm.
The summers were kind of interesting because
Right.
it was like no income or very little income. Um, but then there's well, for instance, the Biltmore Estate at Asheville. I started playing there in 1987. I'm still playing there.
Oh, yeah.
um, that was some
Wondered who had that job. Yeah.
yeah, um, very consistent work there. You know, so every year you can count on 10, 12, 15 gigs or something over there at different times a year, and that was always helpful.
Are you playing in the main Biltmore home, or are you playing around at like I do some private stuff at like Cedric's or
Mhm.
um like up on the knoll or whatever back behind the place for weddings.
Right. I've definitely been hired separately from Biltmore to play weddings and things out there, but I've played in a lot of different places in the house. Um, I've never played in that indoor swimming pool though. I really wanted to do
I bet
that.
the acoustics would be
Yeah,
good.
but
Yeah.
they won't let anybody down in there. I've asked.
But
Um,
it is haunted, so you gotta look out for that, you know.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I've played with all sorts of different chamber music groups and solo, and sometimes in the springtime you might be outside down in the conservatory, and there's I think I even had my picture once in the yellow pages. You remember what the yellow pages are?
Vaguely.
And it was a picture of me sitting out with all these tulips, somewhere in a field at Biltmore, and I don't know how that ended up in the yellow pages, but
Oh, that's nice
yeah,
though. Yeah.
yeah, um,
It's funny those pictures like accumulate, you know,
yeah,
from those gigs with all the nice photographers, you know.
sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, one way or another, we made it work over the years, and but one thing I usually tell uh, people, I mean, one of the best ways to survive in music is to diversify.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I have some real estate, and I have these side businesses, and I can do some gigs, and um,
Mm. The
my
sage work is a
yes,
big, yeah,
yeah,
is a part of that.
it's a big part of it. And when our children were younger, my wife, um, I mentioned, we were kind of late bloomers as parents, and my wife decided that she had waited as long as she did to have children, and she realized that she was going to raise her children. She was not going to farm it out and go to work and put her whole paycheck into childcare and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
we had some challenges there. We never had much along the way, but we always had enough, and we made it work. And um, you know, now she's working again. Kids are grown and gone, and she loves her job in the library in Buncombe County, and
That does sound pleasant.
Yeah,
Quiet. Yeah.
yeah. She's a children's librarian, so maybe it's not as
Oh, okay.
quiet, but
A little bit more rambunctious.
yeah, but yeah, we've made it work all along the way, and I couldn't be prouder of what we accomplished together, and my kids. Super proud of my kids. They're great young people.
That's great. Yes,
Yeah,
you mentioned that you put them through college, so
yeah,
you did something right for sure.
yeah, yeah.
That's huge.
Well, they, like I said, they did a lot of the work, um, getting scholarships and doing extra things on the side to get more scholarship money, um, and yeah, they got through college with zero debt.
And are either of them? They did not go to school for music.
That's right.
Yeah.
My older daughter plays cello, and she did play cello in college, in little chamber groups, and she took some music classes and things like that. She's still surprisingly good at cello. Surprising to me because she doesn't practice that much, but boy, when she sits down to play, she sounds great. So. Yeah.
Well, I'll reiterate. I think that there's something particularly demanding or challenging about fingerstyle guitar. A lot more planning ahead,
Yeah.
a lot more
The options.
strategy.
The options. It's like on a keyboard, there's one way up and one way down. And on the guitar,
how nice is that?
You got two different planes of up and down, and the distances between notes in different parts of the guitar. It's like it's very confusing.
You find the note, but you can't play the note there because you got to play a different note on that string. So you got to move everything up.
Exactly. Or the next thing you're going to do is going to be somewhere else, and so you have to manage the movement between different regions of the guitar, and it's super complicated. and lots of times I just don't think I'm that smart. So it's like it takes me a while to figure things out and work things out, and it takes a lot of practice to just stay in basic shape. So
Yeah, I completely agree. It takes a lot. My mornings are pretty dedicated to that.
Good. I'm not quite as dedicated as I used to be. So.
Well, I think you've earned that. Yeah. Oh, I lost my train of thought. Sometimes I wish I had chosen piano because it's the perfect instrument. Everything's right there, fits underneath your hand.
Every octave looks and feels the same. A C chord here feels like a C chord there and there and there. And it's like there's 4 different ways to play the exact same 4 notes in a C chord. Root, third, fifth, and root again. It's like it's really, really confusing and intimidating. And of course, I've figured all this out when I was way too far in to give it up.
Of course, yeah.
But it was like, wow.
Were you on the nylon string from the beginning of your guitar experience, or did you start with rock like a lot of people?
Well, my very first lessons, I was about 14 years old, and I was in a Saturday morning guitar class with 3 or 4 of my school buddies, and it was, like folk songs, Mel Bay books. And I recall distinctly kind of looking up one day in class and realizing that everybody else in there could play but me. Oh. And then I realized it's like, oh, I have to practice. I just thought if
you learned the lesson early,
up,
that's good.
Yeah. I just thought it would be like cool to be a guitar player or something. I don't know. But I learned that it takes practice. And I played in some rock bands and stuff in high school, and never really thought that music would be a career or anything, or something to study. But I when I got out of high school, I really didn't feel like going to college. I was like, I want to take a break. So I had a couple of gap years right out of high school, and had a series of different jobs. And one of the things I realized when I was driving 18-wheelers,
oh man,
I had a truck driver's license, and it's like, man, I'd rather fail at music than succeed at truck driving.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like, I'm going to give this a shot. And
talk about, I thought practicing solo guitar was insular, but man, that's really an isolating, solitary job.
Yeah. And well, I was a relief driver, and for another guy, and yeah, I don't think I've ever heard so much country music in my life, and I think that's why I left that behind.
Oh, okay. So
Got
there were duos, so you guys could switch off.
yeah, because there are rules and regulations about how many hours you can drive, and
Yeah.
you got to switch off to keep rolling. So
Hmm.
mm.
Yeah, you frowned upon bluegrass music earlier in our
Oh,
conversation.
I
True.
love bluegrass for about 10 minutes.
Right. You
And
know, I'm about in that boat as well.
I feel the same way about harpsichord too. You know, it's like maybe 12 or 15 minutes for harpsichord, but you know, it's wonderful, it's amazing, but after a point it's just kind of like hmm.
Talking about, I'm just going to shoehorn this into our conversation. It's completely irrelevant, but it came up I thought of it during a lesson yesterday. I was telling one of my students about the longest, as slow as possible by John Cage. Do you know this song? Speaking
Mm.
of keyboard instruments, that's going to be my segue into
I don't know that
just
one.
putting it.
I know the
This out
3 minutes and whatever of silence,
there.
and
Another sort of musical novelty out there is a as slow as possible, which typically when played on the piano takes like 10 minutes or something. It's like a super simple piece, but you're playing it like as slowly as possible, glacier paced.
yeah.
But some I forget where it is, but there's like an organ somewhere in a church, which basically an art installation that's gonna play it for like 300 years or something. And so the note changes like every few years, and
Right.
people like gather around and like watch the note change.
Wow, that's intense. I've heard of like a bicycle race where the point is to be the last person over the finish line. You know, it's like
So everybody just
go as
goes really
slow
slow.
as you can, keep the bike upright. You can't put your feet down. You know, it's like
Oh, that's a good. Okay, I was gonna say
yeah,
that's hilarious.
hmm
Yeah. But but yeah, I same there. I don't think I could sit there and listen to that one note for longer than maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, that's a different kind of intense
Yeah.
than bluegrass. I mean, like again, I love it. It's amazing what those people can do.
I'm
But
sure there are nuances inside the genre that maybe we're
that
not.
I'm not picking up on. Yeah, and
Same with country. I like country when I'm. Oh, there he went. Okay. I like country when I'm feeling low,
yeah,
you know, or
yeah,
just that vibe
yeah,
can be sort of that commiserating, like
yeah. And there is Americana. You know that
mm,
distinction between Americana and country.
vaguely enough. I feel
Yeah,
like
it's like
country has twang, whereas Americana's more on the folky side.
yeah, or I've heard the artists say it's like country music for progressive people.
Oh,
Like,
right. Okay, I could see
or
that.
blue voters, or it's like that's Americana.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, yeah. My blood is red, white, and blue. So
Yeah.
American, yeah. Uh, so you took a couple of years off and then decided to go back to school in Mississippi, or well, first South Carolina, then
Right.
Mississippi, you said.
Right.
And then why Asheville? What brought you to this
Well,
area?
I did have some friends up here, and I'd spent some time as a boy up here in summer camp and things, and Asheville's the place to be.
I do know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was always the plan, is end up here. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Nice. And you made it. You're retired here,
the
living the dream.
the timing worked out. The fella who was teaching at UNCA decided to go work on a doctorate in music, and so the position opened up, and it's like, hey, I'm here, and it's like, great, you're in.
Yeah.
Uh, and I also
There's never too many classical guitarists, and I mean, I'm sure you
yeah,
earned it, and
yeah, but there were a couple others in town, but I don't know, it worked out for me,
you
and
fought them off.
yeah. When the job opened up at Clemson in 1994, they did tell me later that there were, I think, 37 applicants for a job that guaranteed you nothing. It's like, if you have a student, you have a job.
Yeah.
There is no, if you have a student, we're going to charge that student a fee, and we will give you, I don't know, 87% of that fee or something. And it's like, you don't get the whole thing. They keep some of it for their administrative purposes. But, the first year I taught at Clemson, I drove 2 hours to get there. I taught for 2 hours.
It's about 2 hours away from Asheville, right?
Yes, yes.
Is it a much bigger school? I don't know much about Clemson.
Far bigger. Yeah,
Okay.
it's huge. But anyway, I drove 2 hours, I taught 2 hours, and I turned around and drove home 2 hours. So I was spending 4 hours in the car to teach for 2 hours.
Yikes.
That's how it began. But by the end of many semesters, well, eventually I had to develop a classroom curriculum, and I taught sometimes as many as 6 or 8 sections of beginning guitar, a couple of sections of intermediate guitar. I had a guitar ensemble, and then I had private students. So by the end, I was down there 3 days a week. I would leave Asheville on Wednesday and stay 2 nights and come home on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And taught sometimes more than 100 students in those 3 days,
Wow.
between the classrooms, and they kept the classes, um, on purpose. They kept them somewhat small, so that you would have interaction with each student as needed. It's not like 30 people in a classroom or 100 people in a classroom. It was like 12 maximum.
Mm-hmm.
Often I would have 6 to 8 or 10 in a class, and I really could interact and get to know each student and work with them individually. So
That's actually ideal. I mean, you were making me envious in a few different ways. I mean, it's great to teach people who want to be there, and if they're at the like college age, so they've got capabilities and experience, or even if they're beginners, they've got a little bit more understanding of needing to practice. I mean,
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
And
Well, they do get busy, and the guitar would tend to fall to the back of their pressing work, but that's okay. I mean, I understand they've got to build those bridges and make them stand up. Those civil engineers and
oh, right. Yeah.
guitar. It's like, well, if you miss a chord, the bridge isn't going to fall down. So
Yeah, that's a prior. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, for my younger students, they need their grades to be good to get into schools, and yeah.
sure, yeah,
But yeah, a class with 6 students, because often on a one-on-one, you're teaching them and you're watching somebody do something pretty poorly and then touching things up every now and then. But
yeah,
to be able to circle around, get somebody started, and then come back to them after they've spent some
exactly,
time.
yeah.
That sounds,
And you always have, in a situation like that, students at different levels and different aptitudes, and some people can play really well and they know nothing about music. Other people have played some other instruments, or other instrument for many years. They know everything about music, but they've never held a guitar. It's like, so you have people sitting next to each other who have very different needs and capabilities, and so you're always adapting in the situation.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
And I'm sure after over 30 years, you really honed those skills of.
yeah, I got pretty good at it, and I even got pretty good at the whole Zoom teaching during the
Oh, right.
pandemic. But it it uh, it threw in a whole nother challenge.
Yeah, I've still got a couple of Zoom students,
Hmm.
and that was tough, especially the younger students. I had a 6-year-old that lived in Charlotte, and that
Hmm.
was very difficult to keep the focus going.
Sure, sure.
But I've got one like 10-year-old who lives like on a yacht, and he's just
Oh.
like all around. He's like in Ecuador and then Panama, and
Hmm.
he's just like exploring the world, like living this totally, out of the box lifestyle. And
That's so
then
great, isn't it?
it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It wasn't just a fallback. It's like, well, this is a genuine method for reaching people anywhere and interacting with them and helping them out. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I certainly am felt, I don't know if you know Andy John. He's another guitar teacher in town. He talks about how people take guitar lessons for like a lot of different reasons,
Mm-hmm.
Or this student on the yacht is a trumpet student. I teach a few
Mm-hmm.
different things, and I do feel like I almost play a role of like normal civilization, this
Mm-hmm.
like anchor uh to doing something normal.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a teacher, I mean, sometimes you're doing therapy in lessons. You're
That can
listening to
come
all
up.
sorts of things from, especially with college students. Lots of times they just need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
um, it's the only time they have one-on-one with a an adult or whatever. So yeah, you hear lots of interesting stories.
Yeah. At first, when I was experiencing that, I think I gave too much advice, but now it's better to just listen, I
Yeah.
think, most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Uh, do, uh, do you have any hot gossip? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You know, it's only been, I don't know, not quite a year and a half since I gave up gave up the teaching, but boy, it seems pretty far in the rearview mirror right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that decision. Was it hard to step back? I mean, you got this great celebration. You seem
Yeah.
beloved with a lot of people returning for this guitar festival to see
Yeah.
you off.
It was very very moving to have students from, wow, some of them as far back as the late 1990s and the early 2000s, and um, they came from all over across the country to participate. We had a guitar ensemble, um, and then there were concerts and lectures and things to attend, and tried to get a variety of musicians, and so um, yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, that's huge. I'm sure that was heartwarming.
Yeah,
Except, bluegrass included.
even with the bluegrass.
uh,
The story there is I got Clemson to commit to bringing Molly Tuttle, who's an amazing, amazing guitar player. You can find 1,000 videos of her on YouTube, and when we booked her, she had just released a singer-songwriter album during the pandemic, and she did all these covers, and they're amazing. They're so good. And so that's kind of what I was expecting her to come and do at Clemson, but we booked her so far in advance. By the time she got there, she was fully in her bluegrass mode with
on to the next
a whole
thing.
band, and yeah, wasn't exactly what I envisioned. But we did have Andrew York, we had Alex DeGrassi, we had Hiroya Tsukamoto, we had my undergraduate teacher Christopher Berg came
Oh,
and
cool.
performed, and oh, and the first night out on the lawn, we had a free concert for the community that was a really great band based in Greenville, South Carolina, called the Grateful Brothers,
Mm.
and all they do is Allman Brothers and Grateful Dead covers.
Okay, that
So,
adds up. Yeah.
yeah. So we tried to have a little bit of everything, and I think people were satisfied.
That's cool.
Yeah.
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 And Andy Jurek played a little bit.
He
Friend
did.
of the show, friend
Yeah.
of mine. I went to college for jazz studies and philosophy, and I only got into classical guitar really like my last year because I just kept diversifying. I was taking trumpet lessons from Rich Willie at the time too, um uh and so I learned like a couple of Bach pieces for my senior recital, and then when I got out,
On guitar or trumpet?
on guitar.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just found myself drawn to the classical, especially after life got a little bit more grindy and stressful. I find so much peace reading, classical guitar and figuring that out, as opposed to like the kinetic up jazz that I do still enjoy
Sure.
improv too. But so I started playing a lot of gigs and spending more and more time practicing classical guitar with just awful posture, and I started getting like numbness and some weird stuff. And Andy, so I went to take a few more lessons at UNCA with Andy, and it was very odd, years later, maybe a decade later, going to my undergrad
old
again,
school,
in for lessons, a lot of nostalgia. But yeah, you really helped
Yeah. Good.
get everything in order, and so did the sage work.
You got the guitar support going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real back saver and great for just keeping your body ergonomically, available
Yeah.
while doing complicated things.
Yeah, you're using one. What were you using? Well, you had invented
I
a
invented
couple.
the A-frame guitar support back in about 1991.
That's
And
when I was born.
yeah. Okay. Well, I still make those. I still sell them. Not quite as many as I did back in the day. There's a lot of competition right now, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, and then 6 or 7 years ago, these guys who invented this magnetic support reached out to me They're beautiful inventors, and sourcing the parts and figuring out the process for assembling them and making them, and they did great at all that. Just couldn't say enough good about that. And then when the product got released, it's like it did really well, and they were like, "Oh, we have to make more." It's like they didn't like the building process, and they just decided they just wanted out of the business. They just wanted to sell the business. They didn't want to manage it, or they just wanted out. So,
which is wild, because like right from the beginning, you look at like This Is Guitar or other big guitar influencers, and their reviews of all these stands, and it's like that one is the best. Like
it's the one.
It's
yeah.
recommended. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we made a deal where we bought the company over time, and that's leaving Clemson when I did was like just about when we finished paying off that business. So that's been a part of the design for several years.
Oh, right. I had asked you about making the decision to retire, so
Yes.
I guess that
that
influenced
that
it.
definitely influenced it. So
I didn't mean to come so hard on it's the best after we talked about you inventing the A-frame.
Well,
how does that feel, that transition?
well, they both solve the same problem,
Mm-hmm.
but they do it in different ways. The A-frame is easier to use, and I believe that you can achieve more nuanced positions with the A-frame. It has a adjustable strap, and
Will you tell me a little bit about what the A-frame? I don't think I've experienced this guitar stand.
well, it's suction cups on a frame with a Velcro strap. I have
see.
one. I should have brought it over here to the table, but it has a tailpiece that also adjusts. So a lot of guitar supports in here, they just stick something on the guitar, and it's like just how you stick it on, that's it. But the A-frame allows you to get the height you want, and then you can change the angle of the neck with a second separate adjustment.
Oh, okay.
So it's very flexible and adaptable, and it folds up flat. It can fit in your case.
Mm-hmm. And you get both feet on the ground. I'd
Yes.
been using the foot pedal before this, and teaching lessons all day after practicing for a long period of time, and my spine, like everything was twisting
Yeah.
because one foot, even just like a
Yeah.
few inches off the ground, is
When you do it every day,
devastating.
it becomes a problem. It just does.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the magnetic support, one of the great advantages here is that suction cups can have over time an impact on some of the high-end finishes on guitars.
Mm-hmm.
The French polish finishes or matte finish, a suction cup won't stick to that. And by using the magnets, there's no harm to the finish, and it's a very elegant solution.
Definitely, the suction cups have, in my experience, popped off at
Yeah,
inopportune moments.
they can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So magnets are really, really solid. They are the strongest magnets I've ever been around. So
Yeah, at first I was afraid that they would maybe pop off inside the guitar and wreak, devastation. But yes, no, so far they're good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm pretty much using that exclusively now. I have also, though, adapted the A-frame for electric guitars or thin-bodied instruments. It has suction cups that stick to the back of the instrument, and the guitar rests on a little shelf, because you can't get the magnets inside of a electric guitar or a solid instrument. So so that's something I added, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago.
That makes sense, because now even when I'm playing electric, I'm like all proper and classical. I try to teach my students to do that, but often it's like on a strap.
Well, you need to see the A-frame MI, multi-instrument.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I might point some students in that direction too.
And then
we could have infomercialed it.
Yeah. And then in 2015 or 16, I got a patent on a guitar strap called the X strap, which if you
Mm-hmm.
take the word extra and strap and kind of run them together, you get X-strap.
Okay, sure.
So
I
for
have seen this one, right? It goes like an
it's
X.
not that.
Oh, okay.
It's not an X. It's just extra. So it has a one main strap, but then it has a second strap that comes around the back. You
Mm-hmm.
feed it through a belt loop and put it in a side release buckle and crank that thing down. Boy, it pulls the neck up and it pulls it to your chest. So the guitar is not, dangling and moving around and being problematic. It stays put.
Yeah.
And I used that for years, uh, even before it was patented at Clemson in my classes, because I would have to walk around and talk to people and show and demonstrate, and the guitar just was like a part of
Where
me.
you need it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's been a you know another product that I've got out there in the world. So it's like 2 patents, 3 products.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's thoughtful for sure. I mean, these are if you don't play guitar, these problems that we're discussing are so minor,
Right.
you know. So, but they add up and they cause these little like annoyances or frustrations that are distracting, not just during practice, but during performance settings.
Yeah.
And they can these inventions are very valuable
Yeah.
in solving those problems.
I probably couldn't play half as good without if I was like still using a foot stand because I'd be crippled
Yeah,
by
definitely.
this time.
I know, yeah. A few more years of that thing, I was gonna get rocked. I had to adjust. I've adjusted my Sagework uh, magnetic guitar stand because it was sliding down my leg. So I have like super glued synthesizer feet, like
Oh,
little rubber feet on
oh,
the bottom of it
interesting.
to stick to my pants a little bit
Hmm.
more.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, that seems to work. That's the limit of my ingenuity, though.
Yeah. Well, if people could see all the wiring in here, you've got some other ingenuity going on for sure.
It's a work in progress. That's my go-to comment there. I feel like we had a dangling thread, the hot gossip. No. uh, w- what was the adjustment to? Well, it's you say you're retired, but it sounds like you're still getting around town and playing, doing the
I
Biltmore
do a few
thing.
gigs. I play at Biltmore. I play at the Biltmore Hilton Hotel in Biltmore Park. One or
Mm-hmm.
two Sundays a month at brunch, and you know that's fun. I've just recently put a ton of music on an iPad and bought a little foot pedal to Bluetooth the pages. I was still doing 5 and 6 pages on a giant music stand, and
Another game changer.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
been huge. Do you use Fourscore?
I use something called PIA Score,
Oh,
PIA PIA Score,
okay.
and it's been great.
Okay, cool.
So
I'll have to check that out. I thought for maybe for a little bit Fourscore was like the one, but
I
now I'm
think it
hearing
is.
these competitors.
Yeah, there are others now, and I found at the last gig I did, I can play a whole lot more music in my 2 hour gig because I'm not setting up and taking down music. It's like you just
Right.
hit the pedal and it goes to the next piece, and you're just ready to keep playing. So
So what sort of repertoire are you playing for those? Do you ever whip out the pedals at the Biltmore?
no, no, no. Um, at Christmas time, you're pretty much playing uh, exclusively Christmas music there. But every year for all these years, I've tried to add new arrangements and new pieces to keep it fresh. And sometimes I make my own arrangements. And um, in the springtime, it's kind of a little more open. I always include some classical guitar, but fingerstyle arrangements of pop songs and folk songs and things are great. You know,
Mm-hmm.
things that people recognize. And
Yeah. Are you
um,
doing any jazz standards?
I love jazz music, but I'm not a jazz guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do a couple of like old standards like Blue Sky or
Oh, yeah. That's a favorite. I like
yeah,
singing that one,
yeah,
but
uh,
it's sort of dark.
yeah. Um, so they're I can't remember names very well of songs, but I do a few classic old songs, and Fly Me to the Moon, and
Mm-hmm. Well, that one's totally upbeat. I
yeah,
like Flying to the Moon. Some of them, those jazz standards seem upbeat, but they're sort of backwards. Or like
yeah.
All the Things You Are is a beautiful song,
Mm-hmm.
but then at the very last line is like all the thing. I can't wait until all the things you are mine. It's like very like domineering.
Yeah. So, I'll just do a variety of things.
Pop. A lot of Beatles maybe.
Yeah, a ton of Beatles. And,
Yeah.
I've got an Elton John set and a Neil Young set, and got a couple of Sting pieces, and
Yeah, cool.
yeah.
I did a Sting piece for a wedding. It was from a movie about spades, something about cards. The Shape of My Heart.
Shape of My Heart. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll show you that. Did you bring your iPad tonight?
I did not.
Oh, I can't send you a couple of
Mhm.
arrangements. I guess I can still email them to you.
Sure.
What Sting do you have down?
Um, I have, again, I'm terrible with names.
It's okay. I can't play Shape of Your Heart anymore, by the
Yeah.
way. I learned
Yeah.
it and then I made it
Um,
too hard.
Wrapped Around Your Finger.
Oh,
That's a
yeah.
Police song. Um,
That drummer.
I did
It's great.
an arrangement of The Black Seam
Mm,
from Dream of the Blue Turtles album.
I'm less familiar with that one.
Yeah, I love every song on that album. Uh, Fields of Gold.
Yes, yeah.
A couple of those. I mean, I have to read them. I don't memorize them, so it's like
Hmm.
it's too easy to just read it than to do all the work to memorize it. So
Same, yeah.
yeah.
But did you have to do that during your schooling or like in the classical field at all, like memorize some stuff?
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. Like all my recitals were totally from memory.
Okay, yeah.
Didn't do any reading, but now gigging.
Y-
It's all
There's a
reading.
zillion pieces.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
Yeah.
I was doing that too. I just memorized like a Bach prelude to
Hmm.
see if I could do it.
Hmm.
And then I was going to go on and do the whole suite. And I was like, I don't need to prove this to myself. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually that music is so complicated. At least for me, it's like I have to memorize it because I have to watch my hands, and it's just I can't.
Achieve that. You got to achieve that flow of
Yeah.
muscle memory and stuff.
Right. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Uh, yeah. So, uh, where do I want to go from here? You're a pop.
Mhm.
Oh, you know what? We're almost at time.
Oh.
So, are there any dangling threads? Anything else that you wanted to mention to the world at large? Any wisdom that you've gained in your retirement?
If you're a guitarist, diversify.
Okay, that is good.
If you're in
Good advice.
Asheville, get a hold of some real estate.
Yeah.
It's getting almost impossible, anymore, for certain people in my tax bracket, to invest in real estate around here anymore. It's just insane. So
It is tough.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, Canton, the paper mill just shut down. That would
right.
have been the time. Probably already missed that window.
Yeah,
Buy some
so,
stinky land before
yeah.
it sort of cleared up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is good advice to diversify. And what about like in town in the Asheville guitar culture? Like you mentioned that there's a guitar orchestra. Are there opportunities for people to get into the community a little bit more?
Yeah, the guitar orchestra, which is conducted by my friend Amy Brooks, and she can be reached, through the Guitar Society, Asheville Guitar Society. I'm sure you've got Andy's contact, and
Mm-hmm.
they meet the orchestra meets on the first Sunday of the month in the afternoon for maybe 2 hours, like 1:30 to 3:30, I think, or 1 to 3, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the music is designed to sort of be accessible to hobby players, and there can always be adaptations for people who are you know maybe not the strongest player, but you want to be involved, and it's like, great, come be involved, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
And then other people can play other parts, and so it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the Guitar Society for like solo sharing, solo playing meets I shouldn't try to reach out to Andy.
Throw
I'll
out
tell
some
you. I think
dates.
it's either the second or third Sunday.
Pretty sure
Um,
September 4th,
well,
midnight.
I actually helped to found that guitar society way back in the late 80s or around 1990 or something. But once we had kids, it was like, I do guitar all week long. It's like I'm gonna spend time with my family. I don't need to do this on the weekend for just you know just to share and hear other people. It's like I hear guitar all day. In fact, there's a joke in my house. It's like I'd come home at night and my kids would be practicing, and it's like, no music. Go read a book. And it's like, I don't want to hear music. I have thought about music all day long. Go do something else.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely. I find myself gravitating, away towards quiet time or maybe podcasts a little bit more than listening to music. I'll listen to music in the morning before a day
yeah,
of,
yeah.
of listening to it. I'm also curious. I want to ask about if you still enjoy playing like Giuliani and Carcassi,
Yeah,
and that old stuff.
I sure do.
But yeah, I didn't have to like trudge through that stuff in college, so I still think it's more novel to me than other classical guitarists who went through all that, or like
Well,
Mertz, or even the more romantic
in
stuff.
fact, maybe I'll play a couple of Soar pieces. My dad gave me the complete works of Soar in my freshman year of college, and it was kind of intimidating at first, and it's old music and there's lots of mistakes in it, and it's facsimiles of the earliest known edition of these pieces. But over the years I've gone through there and found some really delightful music that some of it I've never seen in modern publications, and there are certain pieces that seem to always show up in the method books and teaching books, and there's a lot of stuff out there that's in his repertoire that never gets played. That's great student literature. So
Yeah, my three favorite books for learning class that like brought me to where I am are the Carcassi and Giuliani and Soar, those complete studies by I think David Grimes put them together. Yeah. But it sounds like you've got like a thick, gigantic complete works of Soar.
right,
I would love to
it's
find that.
five volumes. And
Yeah,
it's just
that's
as guitar
awesome.
music, just as guitar music.
That's really well. Now I've got something to look for.
Yeah. Well, I'll send you a couple of mine. I've tried to do some modern arrangements from those early publications where they just did things differently, and it wasn't as easy to fix their mistakes, so they just left them in.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Told you at the beginning, hey, there's a problem over on this page on this piece, but couldn't fix that stuff after it went to press. So.
Good luck.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's take a little break.
Okay.
And then we'll get set up to do a couple of performances. Any last minute thoughts again? Opening it up.
Oh, just hang in there. We'll be back.
Yes. Yeah. We'll be right back.
With the more fun part, the playing.
Yes. Right. No, this has been a joy getting to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
And chatting the nuance. See, I always feel like I'm just getting into it. I want to talk more about that classical repertoire that like not a lot of people can talk about. Giuliani is so playful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yes, I'm Sam Irvin, David Stevenson. Thank you so much for coming on. The show is Asheville 8 Note. And I don't know how often I should reset. Should I have said that? It's not radio. I guess people already know it's Asheville 8 Note. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And I have the ability to cut to black from over here, but we'll still be audible, just to let you know.
Okay.
I'm still figuring things out. But yeah, so we'll be right back. Cut to black. All right. Yeah, I'd love to hear some Soar. I'd love to, I think I can rig you through all these crazy effects, and we can experiment a little with that. play us something.
Okay. I'll do one of those sting pieces.
Okay, great.
This is wrapped around your finger.
That's great.
Yeah. Thanks.
Glad we got that on camera. Do you have somewhere with recordings that people can find your work, like up on Spotify?
Yeah. So those the recordings I have there are original pieces of music. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Under just David Stevenson.
Yeah. Stevenson with a V.
Stevenson. Yeah.
Not a PH.
Stevenson.
Right. You got it. Yeah. PH is an F sound, so.
Right. I know what's up. I've got the V. Irvin.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah. Whatever you feel like playing, for sure. I might play something here in a minute, but I sort of want to make sure all the levels are sounding nice.
Sure. Well, I'll play a little Brazilian piece, The Sounds of Bells. You familiar with that piece?
I have heard of that piece, yeah.
So.
Nice. And it sounds beautiful now in here too. That was great. There's probably a little bit of an echo for anybody watching on the first song, but I fixed that for the live stream, and whenever I post this edited and mixed, everything will be extra beautiful.
Okay.
Extra crisp.
And you'll fix my mistakes too, right?
No promises. Yeah, so maybe I'll play something.
Sure.
If you'd like. Although, I mean, I can't follow that, but I'll do something. Try to choose something simple enough. Maybe some DNs.
That's not simple.
I'm gonna choose one of the shorter ones. Nova Bossa, do you know that little one?
I don't know that, no.
One of the 100 etudes that he did. Let's see. Could have been disastrous. Do you use the Donner page flipper?
I forget what brand mine is. It's not that one, but
Okay.
there's a bunch of them out there now.
There are, yeah. They're all the same.
They do.
I really want to upgrade that to the larger iPad and get the bigger sheet. I feel like I'm squinting half the time. Let's see.
Nice. I've never heard that. It's a beautiful piece.
I like it a lot, yeah. Even with the funky ending there.
Uh-huh. And he wrote 100 etudes?
He did, yeah. They're in 2 volumes.
Wow.
And they each come with like these gigantic liner notes.
Uh-huh.
Because they're didactic work.
Right.
I love them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, there's some of my favorite pieces. I want to explore York's work a little bit more. I've got his like 7 discernments or whatever.
Yeah. There's a huge variety in his opus.
Yeah.
All sorts of different pieces of different character and different difficulties and lengths, duration and all that. So, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Any suggestions? I can always look back at this, like where to start with York. Those discernments were a little on the simpler side that I found, like Snowflight.
Right. There's like 7 pieces in there or something, or 8.
Yeah.
8 discernments maybe. I don't remember. But there's another one that's sort of one step up from there. A similar number of pieces, but they're definitely more challenging music and more rewarding music.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll look for those.
Sorry, I'm just terrible with names.
No,
I don't know the name of the book, but
he's still old school style. Like I think I had to email him, and then he emailed me like personally the discernments once you pay for him.
Right. I think he has his own. Protected way to do that or something, like a computer program that he owns and figured out and wrote the code or something for, so that
people aren't posting his stuff for free.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I think about that, posting my arrangements too.
Right.
So what's next? Speaking of variety, do you want to bring these pedals into play?
Well, sure. Let's. I feel like I need to say here that this is. Well, let me tell you this story. Years ago, I went and played at one of these booking conferences down in Charleston, South Carolina, and I did some piece, with the looping and echoes or whatever, and after you're trying to get booked, your audience is people that might book you, and a woman came up to me afterwards, very enthusiastic, and I played well. I was very confident about it.
Feeling it, yeah.
And she said to me, this is almost a direct quote, she said, "That was great, but you won't get any work because you don't play the guitar the way it's supposed to sound."
Okay.
Like, okay.
Thanks for your bluntness. Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, that's sort of the point, is to like, okay, yes, I've trained myself. I can read music. I can participate in all sorts of different music. But when I write something, I'm trying to say something that hasn't been said. So that's sort of the point. And if it's not popular, or if not many people want to listen to it, I mean that's fine too. It's just something that speaks to me, really, and if it doesn't sound like something you've heard before, good.
Yeah,
that's sort of the point. So it probably won't fall into any kind of style or convention. Remind you of something or whatever. I mean, and that's really the case with guitar too. Is that so many? I mean, I've shown up at so many gigs where people say, "Oh, guitar, what are you going to sing?" And it's like, "Well, I don't sing," and they just kind of look at you like, "Guitar and you don't sing?" It's like, huh?
That's familiar for sure.
So,
well, it struck me earlier when you mentioned that now you're playing again at home for fun, writing stuff for you, and it doesn't matter how far it gets out there. And you mentioned, what struck me was that you mentioned, I'm in a good place right now. And it's, that's nice to have that that happiness and that freedom, the happiness in that freedom to just play for your own creative, fulfillment.
Exactly. So I'm going to do just a little kind of arpeggiating with chords at first. It's just kind of more textural, and hopefully that it kind of calms the listener and puts them in a maybe even a meditative kind of space. It's not going to be like a melody and a bass line and a chorus and a repeat and then a coda. It's not going to be that. It's just going to be more like a flowing meditative experience. And I'll eventually get to a piece that I call slow verb, like reverb slowly, but also using the word verb,
moving, some kind of moving thing.
Yes, yeah, or intentional or whatever. So, let's see where this goes. This will be a little bit improvised.
It's working.
Yes, okay.
was brought to a meditative space for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Otherworldly. That's good stuff. Yeah. How long have you been messing around with the effects?
Well, I brought another piece to play that, believe it or not, I had a Digitech pedal back in the late 1980s, and it had 8 seconds of memory, which at that time was just like, wow, how did they do that? 8 seconds. And it was, that's where I first, I guess you could loop it, but I was just playing with kind of like reverb or echoes that would sustain and eventually, disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of getting 3 or 4 plates spinning in the air, and then go get one doing, go off and do something else, come back, spin that one again, go off, do something else, and kind of
yeah.
So that that's where I first experimented with that. I heard a concert at Clemson. I wasn't teaching there then, but I heard a concert of Alex DeGrassi, the great fingerstyle composer and arranger, with a bass player named Mark Egan.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark Egan did a bunch of stuff with looping and reverb bass. He did a whole solo set on bass, and I was really blown away by that. So that was my first inspiration for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a while.
A while, yeah. A long time passion.
I look forward to doing more. It's just something I haven't really taken a lot of time yet to explore. There's so much out there, so much you can do now, and so much easier in the digital age.
It is, yeah. Well, we've still got some time. I was hoping. Well, it sounds like you've got another prepared piece. I was hoping to send you through like my stuff over here and get real weird if you're open to that. That'll be a whole to do though.
Yeah,
I'll have to get headphones
maybe next
going
time.
on. Okay, next time, sure.
Yeah.
We'll talk it through.
Okay.
Strategize.
Well, let's see if I can. I'll have to do a little bit of dialing in over here.
Oh, sure. Should I play something else to give you a moment?
Sure.
What do I got on hand? What about this nice a little Malanga by Oliveira, or arranged by Pomilio. I'm not sure how to pronounce these names. That's a fun one.
And who'd you say the composer was?
M.F. Oliveira,
Oliveira.
transcribed by Pamilio. I had never heard those names before.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of pieces from them.
Yeah.
From Masterpieces of Guitar. There's like
Cool.
a collection. I think it's from these guys.
Oh, I think I used to have that book.
Yeah, the sort of popular read-throughs.
Uh-huh.
I have a couple of them.
Nice.
I'm not sure what camera is looking where. Yeah, selected masterpieces for the classic guitar. All right, are you all dialed in?
Yes, I'm going to do this last piece with this echo that fades if you don't go back and recreate it. So this is
like the spinning plate style
Yeah.
that you were just discussing.
yeah, this is actually something that I composed back in the late 1980s, and it's kind of built around E minor for a long time, and then C major 7, and we'll see if I can get this timed out. Sometimes it's a challenge, but. thanks.
Hey, yeah, thanks for coming on. Thank you. That's a gift.
I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yeah. What a full sound. That's so much guitar.
Yeah.
It's a lot of strings.
Yeah. And sometimes they actually, when I don't hit wrong notes, they actually, make interesting connections.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, that's sort of, one of the ways I think about those pieces is, having a digital delay like that is a tool to to hear what the notes are doing. It's a way for us to hear what they do anyway, but it gives us a window. You can't see the infrared, but with certain tools you can see the infrared spectrum or whatever. It's like, well, this is what these notes are doing, after I play them in a realm where nobody can hear them. But this tool gives us a chance to see how they would interact with each other, hanging out there in some other, zone.
I can see that, yeah. Whether it be the realm of possibility or it's sort of an expansion, because whenever a sound is made, it is refracting off of the walls or whatever, but very quickly.
Yeah.
But here we're getting much larger refractions. Yeah.
So, anyway, I hope to be doing more of this sort of experimentation and see where it leads.
All right, so we should be paying attention to your Spotify.
Yeah, maybe there'll be something new up there.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Thanks, Sam.
Hey, thank you, David. And if anybody's still watching, thank you for tuning in. Now, I'm sure you're riveted. Sorry we're leaving a few minutes before 10, but we'll have you back. I'm going to get you plugged into this one day.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. And next week, I'll be back with a different guest. I'm forgetting who's on next week. All right. Bye.